Basically, just for some housekeeping items, for those of you who are listening and joining us by Zoom, we ask that you keep all of your audio muted. We will have time for questions at the end. Um, you can also chat some questions if you have questions during, so you don't forget. We'll have the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat box. So you're welcome to do a private conversation, or you can, or you can text or chat with anyone on the team here. So basically, I was mentioning that Detroit Events Council um, presented this idea about talking to different segments of the event industry. If you go to their Facebook page, they have a variety of different teams that are talking to different groups of people. Full event agencies that have more than 10 or so employees. They have AV and production teams, social event planners, you name it, marketing. There's a bunch of different groups of people, I think, just to come together and to share information for one, and to be encouraging to one another during this time, right? So, like I said before, we're going to continue to do these conversations with our independent event professionals. And what I mean by independent event professionals, it kind of alludes to um, um, companies that are solopreneurs or single member LLCs or less than 10 employees, that kind of thing. And so, we have our own lane where the larger event companies um, fit into the mode of, say, for instance, the PPP, where they can get assistance when it comes to payroll assistance because they have a full staff, those types of things. For me, for those who don't know, my name is Nina Payne, and I am the founder of Foundation Management. We are celebrating 20 years of being a small business owner this year. And we started out as an artist management and special events company, where we focus all of our event space in entertainment. So we did everything from concerts and festivals to that space to stage management, production management, and then road management and tour management. And we got to travel the world and doing those amazing things until I decided that it was important for me to plant 2 feet on the ground here in Detroit because I traveled a whole lot and I didn't have a Detroit community. And I wanted to build a legacy here for my family, my daughter, and that sort of thing. So this is my 5th year of focusing the company on corporate events, mainly B2B, in the areas of event management, event production, and event staffing. So um, that's my story. So I wanted to bring on some of the people that I've met in these years to talk about um, their particular road. And what I mean by that is that having a small business is one thing. Having a small business in an event space that now this pandemic has impacted greatly is another level. Um, and before I do that, I just want to also acknowledge the people who are, I don't want to take it lightly that people are suffering. And I don't want to take it lightly that people have lost people, friends and family and that sort of thing. And so for those of you on the call who are listening, who are in that space, my heart goes out to you, and my prayers are for you in regards to you and your family during this really, really difficult time. We've all experienced, either we know somebody who's been through it or we know somebody who's passed away. At this point, we're all affected. And so I wanted to bring everybody together to not only talk about the resources that are available, because there's lots of conversations out there about resources, but I wanted to talk about how we can encourage one another. And in this mode of crisis, how do I survive as a small business? And how do I survive as an event professional company? So these ladies that I'm going to introduce to you, I've met on several occasions, and I wanted to have them come on and share their experience with how they deal with crisis, not only in the past, but right now. What are they doing to endure and to get through? As a business owner, you have to make that decision. I'm either going to dig in and make it happen, or I'm going to get a full-time job. So, and for me, it's about digging in. It always has been. I think that's how you last over 20 years. There is no other option for me. So first up is Miss Brandy Lane, Will You Party Event Planning. So Brandon and I met several years ago. Um, she's an award-winning event planner. She does all sorts of events from social to corporate, weddings and like. And we got the chance to work together on one of my projects where we got a chance to get to know each other. Her and her team came out to help me at one of my client sites, and it was an amazing experience. And so we've kept in touch since then and encouraged each other. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself, Brandy.
Hi, thank you for that introduction. um, again, I'm Brandy with Will You Party Event Planning. I am located on Livernois and 8 Mile next to Baker's Lounge. So I have a brick and mortar going through all this. I haven't got my mail in I don't know how long. um, but I do all events. My focus that I was going to start focusing on now more so is destination weddings. But like you said, I do everything from social to weddings, which was my focal point when I first got into this. So basically that's it. I'm an award winner. I travel. Oh, I am the new state manager, state coordinator of the Association of Bridal Consultants for the state of Michigan. I was just appointed that role at conference in the Bahamas in October.
Awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. So I was super excited to get that, but going through, what we're going through now, as a manager and as a leader, it's taken on a whole different shape of its own at this point. So, but yeah.
So thank you, Brandy. Just to reiterate, guys who are joining now, we will have some time for questions later. And the idea to share in this shared space is a space of encouragement through this crisis. And so if you have questions, put them on the chat, or you can wait till the end and we'll be able to answer those questions at that time. If you just joined us, just turn your audio on mute for now. Next up, we're going to introduce Ms. Kelly Cummins, CEO of Rebel. I met Kelly at another event. It was a social media event at Bamboo. And I just connected to her because she shared a story of triumph that we'll share a little bit later. And I thought we would be able to work together on something. Her spirit is great, and she and her company, I think we're going to be doing great things together, Kelly. So tell everybody a little bit about you.
Sure, yeah, I'm Kelly Cummins. I own Rebel Marketing. So I'm not exactly in the event planning space. However, I support small businesses in their rebranding and marketing effort. So in addition to that, I am also the VP of Detroit Together Digital. So we do a lot of in-person event planning, and have been affected by that. And I have been in business now my Rebel is about 2.5 years old, and I had another company before that, which I can explain the transition in a little bit, that was called Crimson Design Works. I started that in 2012. So it's been an interesting road of business ownership, managing it through all these different crises.
Thank you for sharing that, Kelly. Another piece of housekeeping is that we are recording this particular Zoom. If you have resources that you want to share or ideas, or you want to connect, sign up on my website, FMLFC Events. Leave your email address, and I will share this recording as well as some additional resources for small business and event planners that might be helpful to you. And then also just let us know how you want to connect in the future, because I'd like to be able to continue to stay close to those in the event space. If you're on the Detroit Events Council Facebook page or any of the other connecting spaces, let us know how we can help you moving forward. So next up, last but not least, is my mentor in events. Her name is Njia Kai. I met Njia years ago, and I believe, and I was trying to figure this out, Njia, when I was in artist management, I brought artists to the museum or to the African World Festival at Hart Plaza. That might be it. I don't really know, but it was back in the day. And what I liked about Njia immediately is that how she moved around so delicately. Oftentimes, event people, whether it's production producers, planners, can be a little gruff, right? We're just trying to get the job done oftentimes. And what I watched Ngia move around different people, and she was able to finesse, um, crises and troubles and challenges, and people not showing up, and she just had a grace about her that I really admired. And so I wanted Ngia to be on this call because she represents larger community festivals, larger corporate events, outdoor community concerts, so many different things. And so her perspective is vast and her wisdom is great. So I think she would be a great resource to not only me, but to all the people on the call. Miss Ngia?
Hey, peace. Thank you. I like that lady. I hope to meet her. But thank you. I don't remember either. I know it was either through, oh, you know who I think it was? Hot Sauce.
Was it Hot Sauce?
Because I remember hiring them when they were just barely, maybe still in high school or just coming out or something
They
like that.
probably were. Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It had to be Hot Sauce. Yep.
Right. So our company is called NKSK Events and Productions, and we're a LLC. We produce major public events here in the city of Detroit. And I started out, I have a degree in film directing and broadcast journalism, so I really planned to be a filmmaker. And I moved back to Detroit, and there wasn't a lot of that going on at that time. And I took on a position that was a little two-line ad in the newspaper. We used to find jobs in the classified section of the newspaper. And I responded to that ad, and that got me hired for the Detroit Festival of the Arts, which was a very major public event, used to happen each September, then it moved to June in its last years, and that was on about 20 blocks between Wayne State's main campus and the African Museum, the Wright Museum. So that's where I moved into major public events. Prior to that, when I first came back to Detroit, there were some cultural things, some activities and events that I was aware of that weren't happening in Detroit. So I just started producing things within the community. So I started that way, worked through the Festival of the Arts, and then when we were hired to, as a consultant for the downtown Detroit parks, Campus Martius and those 6 or 7 parks, we had to then create NKSK events so that we could manage the much larger responsibilities that opportunity afforded.
Yes, a lot. And that was the tip of the iceberg about what you do. I just want to reiterate that these ladies have been in business for several years, right? So Brandy, you've been in business for 9 years. Kelly, you've been a business owner for over 8 years. And then Ngia, 17 years plus. And so we've all experienced ups and downs in business. And so through the things that are happening now, we all have to prepare for those. And so what I'd like to do is have this conversation in regards to, you've been through a crisis before that threatened your business. So Kelly, I'm gonna give this one to you. Tell us about, starting a business and maintaining that business when the bottom falls out.
Sure, yeah, so my story is I was working, graphic design is my background, was working full-time in an agency and decided to go out on my own. Started my first business in 2012. Things were awesome. I was making really good money, solopreneur, all the things were great. And then I experienced some really personal things happened to me. I felt like, as Nina said, the bottom fell out. I was depressed, borderline alcoholic. It was a lot of personal things were falling away from me, and I felt totally out of control. That was about 2016, 2017. And what happened is I took it as an opportunity when I was able to come up from under, through therapy and all of that, was able to rebrand. And then I started my new company with new clients and everything. And what I learned through all of that was when I wasn't taking care of myself, personally. Like all of the stuff that was happening bad personally was showing up in my business as well. It's like my business was a mirror of what was going on with me personally. And if I had been more aware at that time, I would have been able to see those things happening. The little red flags would have shown up way before I hit rock bottom. So what I was able to do though, is as I started to take better care of me and keep myself in a better place and get myself in a better place, my business started following that same path without even really trying, even though I was working very hard. I just noticed that the opportunities started coming, the good clients started coming, and then ultimately the money started coming too. So what I can say is that what I've learned from that is I make my self-care and taking care of my brain for like my first priority, no matter what crisis is happening around me. So in this situation now, with COVID-19, I've been able to make that, even though my clients are going crazy and all the different things I'm involved in are shifting and I'm trying to manage all of that, I'm focused on making sure that I'm good so that I can then provide the best of myself to my clients. And that's keeping my business going and also providing some really unique opportunities that I didn't ever think would exist, because I'm able to like be on top of it.
So what would you say as far as, having a business, you went from the bottom falling out to maintaining or restarting a whole new business. What was the mindset of going back to work full time, giving up the whole idea of having your own business? Like, how did you get around that part of it?
Full disclosure, I was very fortunate to be in a financial situation where my husband does work full time, so he had his salary to help maintain the status quo. That being said, my business went into complete almost bankruptcy. I acquired a ton of debt, and actually just 2 days ago was able to pay off the final payment of the debt associated with that business. So woohoo to that. Yes. But I went through all of the self-worth stuff of like, am I even worthy of owning a business? Who's going to want to hire me? All of it. Like, even if I were to consider getting a full-time job, like, am I even qualified to do any of these things? It was a total like imposter syndrome situation. And I spent hours looking at job postings and was like, should I do it? Should I not? And I just felt sick to my stomach of the idea of working for somebody again when I had had so much success and I knew I was capable of it. So it was a lot of soul searching to really decide like, no, I am capable of doing this. And I did it once before. I can do it again, but do it in the way that's, that I know. I wouldn't say do it better. I just do it differently than I did before.
I think that's a really good key. It's like you have to tap into your own energy and confidence, right? You have to decide for yourself that this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to dig in and make it happen. And I think women, it's not man bashing, but I think women have an innate ability to tap into those areas because we are nurturers. We take care of people. And if we have responsibility to take care of people, we tend to push ourselves a little bit harder. There is no room for failure here. We've got to make it happen. And so it's easy for us to tap into those spaces than not. So for those people who have a taste of having a small business and a taste of what the freedom can give you, I think it lends itself to being easier. I'm not saying it is easy, but I think it lends itself to easier. Thank you for sharing that story.
Sure, yeah.
So Brandy, I'm gonna give you a question. We talked about you have a brick and mortar, you're in the event space. We make our money off of people gathering together and people aren't gathering together right now. What is your top issue or challenge right now and how are you working through that?
So my biggest issue was me going through all this emotionally. And I'm used to going hard. If I'm sitting still, I'm like, you could be working, you could be doing something to get it done. So the biggest issue, through this, I've lost a loved one. I've lost some friends. I have friends that are still fighting through this right now. I'm giving myself a break. I learned even over my business over the years, allow myself to feel, to be in the moment, to receive it, and not beat up on myself. Give myself tasks, but not overwhelm myself, because emotionally this is a lot to deal with. And it's going to be our new normal, and we still don't know what that looks like. And as a planner, we have that control in us that, we want to control, we want to plan for the future, and we don't have that right now. So the one thing in how I'm dealing with this is giving myself a break, not being so hard on myself. And when we come out of this, just trying to figure out what it's going to look like when I come out. Possibly I'm thinking, I wrote down 5 things, and I do a lot of weddings. They're saying wear face masks. So in my head, what is that going to look like at a wedding? Should everybody walk in and say, here's your mask? Am I going to have to put a cute little sign like when I say mute your cell phone? And, am I going to have to tap people on the shoulder and say, put your mask on or you're going to have to leave? So, that put me in my happy space as a planner. But, just going through it emotionally, allowing myself to go through it, allow myself to grieve, and mentally, still mentoring. I still have people reaching out to me, and that let us know it's still a future there. So that's my way of kind of, just dealing with this, and just 5 things at a time every day. And I'm mixing in house stuff in with it. So it was literally brush the dog, post on social media, so I'm mixing in work, home, and so I don't feel just overwhelmed.
Yeah. I love that. I love the idea that you said 5 things in a day. And I love the idea that you said forgiving yourself and being able to take time to just be able to deal with the emotion that's out here. And I apologize again, condolences for your loved one that you lost. And we've lost mutual friends in this space. Yeah. So it has been difficult. And you're right, we do, as planners, we want to organize and we want to control, and we want to keep it moving. And so I think that's a good tip, in that taking time to just let it be and sitting in it and dealing with it at the time, because it will come up. If you don't deal with it now, it'll come up later, right? I think
definitely.
So Njia, how are you guys preparing for, this crisis in the spaces that you're in? Like, what do you see is going to be changing, or well, let me ask you this. What are your tips for getting through a crisis moment? And then what are your suggestions for getting through this particular crisis moment as a small business owner in the event space?
Well, I really appreciate the 2 sisters who have just shared. When you are a business owner, especially as a solo entrepreneur or the leader of a small group or crew or staff, then where you're at is where it's at. And it takes a lot to hold yourself together. I think of some of the performers that show up. I remember Nina Simone had a concert at Constitution Hall in Washington, D.C., and they were live streaming it on the radio. And I was in a film production. I was on an errand and I was listening because I was waiting for Nina. I was so happy I'd escaped so I could hear Nina. And the audience was going, Nina, Nina. And they were upset because it was 30 minutes and she had not come out. And it took almost just short of an hour before she came out. And she did her show only to find out her mother had passed. And she was getting herself together so she could do that show. And I think about that in leadership. The performer has to show up no matter, people aren't thinking about them as a human being with a life. And when you are responsible for something, I tell the interns that I teach, look, have you ever watched the 6 o'clock news? And when it was 6 o'clock on the dot and that graphic comes across and then they go, hey, y'all, just hold on because she was a little late. She'll be in here in a minute. No, the news hits at 6. And that's what our clients expect from us. That's what our events and our audiences expect, that what we say is what we're going to deliver. And it's fine to say, yeah, my dog, chewed up the homework, but they still expect you to show up with the duplicate copy. And so I agree that you do, you know, I'm listening because maybe I've been through some of these challenges before.
Yes.
And maybe that the fact that I've turned 27 a whole bunch of times, which I just did in January again.
Well, happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. Has allowed me a certain oversight and overstanding, as my friends would say, understanding about what those challenges can be. But I remembered this when I just, before I even started the company, I had just come back to Detroit, was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I went to this class that they held for women who they were encouraging women to go into business. And I had young children and the whole deal. So, you know, they're trying to prepare us. And this gentleman came to the class. He said, how many of you, and it's about 17, 18 of us, how many of you, if your business hits a slow period and you just really having difficulty, how many of you would look for a part-time job, something to fill in that space until you could get it back going? And I was thinking about his response. I mean, his question before I responded, but a lot of people just raised their hands. Now, I don't know whether I would have eventually raised my hand or not. I just know that he said, those of you with your hands in the air are going to be out of business within a year or so. He said, all businesses hit slow points. And that's when you have to work your business. Whether the slow point is because you're not finding clients, whether the slow point is because you have exhausted yourself and you just need to take a break, or things have happened and you just don't have the wherewithal to keep it moving at that moment. The fact of the matter is, like the sister said, if you're a solo entrepreneur and you are overwhelmed, that means you are overwhelming yourself. And I know that because I walked into that space and I had to look up and go, wait a minute. I remember driving one day and the meeting was canceled. I decided to go to Belle Isle and sit by the river. And I thought about how privileged I was to have that option.
Yes.
That folks who work in offices and factories and, you know, those types of jobs, they couldn't make that choice. So if I was choosing to be overwhelmed and I could choose to go to the river, maybe I could fix that. And so it gets overwhelming, right? There's just those marathon periods in production. But the fact of the matter is that the fact that you are conscious, aware, taking that deep breath, resetting. And I just will mention, for this particular situation we're in, this is unprecedented.
Yeah.
There's no human alive right now who's more than, 6 years old, who was alive in 1918, who experienced that pandemic. When has the whole globe stopped business? When has the whole globe told millions and millions of people to stay home, shutter your businesses, close the schools? So this is a whole nother thing. And so there are some things to do in the meantime, but my major advice, at least I'm advising myself this way, is to wake up every morning, do my morning rituals, the things I do to center myself and get my day started. And then look at what I can do that day. Is there any, research that's still hanging out there that was relating to an event that may or may not still be on board? I mean, what is it that I can do? Then I do something for me. And I've got family here in the house with me. I have grandchildren and older children. So there's a lot of family going on right now. And just really holding myself in a peaceful place, because just like when you're at your events or within your business, you are the leader setting the tone. I'm setting the tone right now for myself, for my clients, for my family. The way I respond to this has a lot to do with what's going to happen after this.
Yeah. Much wisdom. Thank you for sharing that, Ngia. I appreciate everybody's response into all of that, because what I've learned through my years and ups and downs as a business owner are a few things. One is to definitely take time for yourself, like Kelly mentioned, and you also, Ngia and Brandon, we've all said that. Self-care is that's the trendy word now. The self-care is important, and as the center a lot and as the leader a lot, we send the vibrations down to our teams, right? So to our clients, to our families. Because generally, if we have a small business, we're not just the leader in the company, but we are also leaders in other areas, right? So our energy is going to impact others. And so we can't give unless we give to ourselves. And I think I've learned that probably in the last few years. I'm still learning that because I'm a go get it kind of person. So I'm still learning self-care, but I'm doing way more now. And this opportunity of being at home has leaned itself to that. I work out, I spend time with my family, I do my work, I'm able to connect with people, I'm text messaging, how you doing? Encouraging, I'm sending out information that I didn't get a chance to do when I was hustling and bustling and trying to just, throughout the day. So this is actually reteaching me about connection. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this call is reteaching me. So I'm learning things and I'm trying to look at this space, even as drastic as it is, even as unprecedented as it is. What are the positive things that we can pull out of this? What are things that we want to continue to do after the curtain rises and we're all running the streets again? Like what types of things, what are we learning about ourselves in this space? And I think those things of looking at this in a different lens helps me to kind of go through it day by day. Even though people are dying, even though it's so much death and sickness that there's not enough time for people to really process and grieve, because it's every single day that we are experiencing, a lot of us are experiencing death at this type of rate. Even with those things, what am I learning out of this space? The other thing from a business perspective is, trying to figure out what's next, right? So from an event perspective, we keep talking about that we will forever be changed and our new normal. And, I just like to hear from you ladies again. What do you think events, will look like? Brandy, you talked about weddings and wearing face masks at weddings. I hadn't thought about that. That's, it's interesting, but it is a possibility. We're talking about, the CDC talked about wearing masks as a regular form of dress attire, from here until we can figure out what's going to happen, or at least if it doesn't reoccur back in the wintertime, because they're talking about it reoccurring, what does that look like? And so just from your ideas, have you thought about it? And Gia, share with us what you think events are going to be like after the curtain rises, real quickly.
Yeah, well, let me say that I have a standard meeting, a regularly scheduled meeting every Monday with one of my major clients. And we've had several conversations about this because we produce major public events in mostly open air venues. Our events range from 300 people to 100,000 people. And so we are taking this very seriously, that number one, we have to protect our community and ourselves and our employees and all. And so we are diligently reading, listening, and brainstorming through an ever-changing set of circumstances. I think about the fact that what I really am about as a human being is I'm about bridging and making connections. I'm about really encouraging us to humanely live together, work together, meet each other, greet each other. And so I'm about bringing people together, like physically, like, how can I get as many people as possible into this space? And now people are encouraging me to look at options for virtual gatherings and to create something that would exist on a Zoom-like platform. And I'm down with that. I can OG learn the tech, but it goes against the grain of what I'm trying to do.
Yes, it does.
I'm really trying to get us to be human with each other and to come together. And so we're really in a moment now of figuring this out. Like, I've been dragging my foot about this online platform, but I'm about to initiate something. But I tell them I'm going to do it. But as soon as you said the curtain goes up, I'm going to throw my stereo outside and I'm going to initiate the first boogaloo. So I'm really about that. We seriously have to think about this though, because we're responsible when we bring these people together or we encourage someone to do so. And so it's an ever-changing deal that I'm grateful to be here, grateful to meet all you all. I hope to stay in contact with you because I think it's going to take a lot of us brainstorming together to share some innovative ways to move forward after this. I mean, if we're still going to be in the house till the beginning of June or so, this is going to impact our whole notion of socializing.
Yeah.
Am I going to look at you suspicious? You'll never be able to cough or sneeze again in public. I mean, this it's just something. So that was my brief. Sorry.
So Kelly, in your space, marketing and branding, and now you're at Together Digital doing events. Just briefly, because we want to ask some questions. If you have questions, guys, go ahead and put them in the chat box and we can get to them. But Kelly, share with us what marketing and branding looks like in the event space moving forward.
So I'm the VP of Detroit Together Digital, which is the national organization for women who are in the digital space, which is pretty much if you open a laptop, you're in that space. And what our main selling point for the membership is that we have a monthly event, an in-person event locally. And since all of this has happened, we have lost that main value for what our membership is. So we've had to transition everything over to virtual. And it's just been an interesting opportunity to really get creative in what we're coming up with. Beyond our monthly event, we're finding really interesting ways to connect with people. So we came up with the idea of having something called a Reach and Teach series. So we're having partners, and similar to India, I'm very much about bringing people together to learn something. So we're bringing people, partners together, members, anyone who has like a hidden talent or a specialty to showcase that. And then at the same time, we're promoting each other's businesses, us promoting our membership. We all are doing some self-promo as part of it. But it's just a way to really connect on a level that's more human, to learn from each other than it is about, of course, promoting our businesses. So I think going forward though, I don't think we'll lose that. I think it'd be really cool to maintain those types of ideas that we're creating in this virtual space, whether that's translated to in real life at some point. Who knows what that looks like? But what if this is the new norm? I don't know if that's a rhetorical question, just throwing that out there. But what if we are spending more time virtually on and off as this stuff shifts?
So yeah, all of that, right? So I too have been resistant to this whole. I hate conference calls. No, you go. What I did, that whole thing, it just drives me bananas. So it's always been one of those nemesis in my back of my thing. Like if I've got to meet, I'd rather meet in person. And I know it takes more time, but I can feel your energy. It's a whole thing for me. And so moving to virtual, and I've had the last 3 weeks, I don't know, numerous of these virtual calls. And it's a norm. I got to get used to it. You got to deal with it if you're going to progress. And this is where we are. And so looking forward to meetings for me after this. I've talked to clients about, once the curtain, starts to go up, Ninja, what does that look like? And, sneezing on people and what's the liability from an event perspective we have to look at, right? I've talked about doing virtual hybrids where there are some people who are going to be comfortable coming out and there are some people who are not going to be comfortable coming out. And so what if we did hybrid events that would enhance the event experience for those who need connection and those who are just fine watching it on Zoom? So thinking about things like that. Even before this crisis, it's like, sustainability and green and waste and recycling are all part of things as event people we have to look at. Technology is the main spear leader right now of how we're going to manage this, and we just got to be comfortable with that. And then we have to really look at health concerns at these events. Even when the curtain goes up and everything is, they say it's time to go. What does that mean from if someone, goes down, or, get someone sick, from an event planner responsibility? I think we have to look at things like our contracts with our clients. You know, what's our liability, our insurance forms. We need to review those things because our contracts with our clients to make sure that we're covered as a company within that. It's a little bit different now, right? It's a little different than someone eating some bad salad. You know, it's a little bit different. And so I think we have to review those things moving forward and make sure that we're covered. You know, like I said, with insurance, we have to make sure that we are covered as a company, and the client is also, and then we have to be really transparent with the client about the best ways and best practices on how to manage these events going forward in the future if we're together again. So just some ideas. I do have some questions I am going to ask. We have, let's see, we have Precious Media. Do you ladies think we should look into the designing or development of masks as fashion to encourage healthy human connection in the event space? Maybe branded by event or movement? Kelly, I'll have you answer that one since you're in the branding space.
All right. I would say eventually, maybe. Right now, it might be a little insensitive to do that because of the demand on the medical supplies as they are. I would say in the future, it's a big unknown what it's gonna look like, but it's an interesting idea. And if it's an opportunity to brand something, I'm always for that. But I would say hold off on making any kind of dollar purchases to customize anything right now.
And I like the idea from in the moving forward space. Curtains up, we're moving forward. You know, a branded mask then becomes just like a branded, you know, pin or keychain or mug or something, because now you have an opportunity to match a brand with a client, and you know it becomes kind of, you know, if you like those backpacks, it just becomes one of those items, I think, because people will be really used to seeing them. You know what I mean? And so it could be a good thing. Let me ask this question. My question is, it's a long one. What are the best ways to make virtual events as engaging as live events? I think that's a great question. Or at least somewhat as engaging. I do mostly fundraising events and people support causes much more when the energy in the room is encouraging and focused on the cause. Yes, they do. Yes, there are already branded fashionable masks popping up for sale everywhere. Thank you, August Spree. Why don't we give this to Brandy? What do you think about best ways to make virtual events more interesting or as engaging as live events?
So maybe 5 years ago, I did an event where I had someone bring in a screen. It was a birthday party, a 40th birthday party. And I had my social media person bring in a live screen where people could tweet, and as they took their visual pictures, it popped up. So it interact with people at home watching, but the people in the room also got to engage. Anytime you can change the energy in a room, you know, we still have social media to engage that. And I think that would just, you know, I think it'd be an awesome thing to do, but I'm just trying to get my mind on how to keep them engaged, considering they're not face to face. So right now our engagement is live. You know, we're going to have to just rely on the tools that we're used to. You know, you have your live, like I said, you have, you know, your videos to post later. You have your, you know, 2 people going live, like me and my god kids. It was 6 of us on there engaging. So that's the only way that you still make that human contact, you know, by seeing each other. And that's the only way that I could possibly think of a way of right now of seeing that moving forward, besides doing colors or scavenger hunts or different things like that. So
yeah, it's a difficult space, right? So if anybody has ideas, put them on the chat. What I'm going to do is, as we're coming to a close here, is sign up on my website, fmlscevents.com. It's on the chat. Give us your email. We'll share this video with you. It's recorded, so if you need to walk back through it, it'll be available. Also, I have a list of resources that I'll share with anybody that's been on this call so that you can have access. There's resources everywhere, but some things are pertinent to events. Also, there's another question here. Are you considering having virtual events as permanent option? included in your services. I already have virtual events included in my services, which I think all of us probably need to figure out how to do. I do a live streaming service as an option to in-person events as well. So that's just where the space that we're moving to. For me, for this thing that I have to get used to, movement is always a thing. I did a virtual party on Saturday that was a painting party. And so it was a virtual painting party. I got everybody their supplies. I had an instructor on online kind of instructing, and it was a way for us to interact. And I think that type of experience is really, really cool, as opposed to just this talking head that we do, for information. If we can kind of somehow interact, and Zoom has private rooms that you can have conversations with, and there are other online platforms that have private rooms. You can do one-on-one conversations with people that are a little bit more private. There's lots of different tools in these spaces like Zoom that will allow for movement. I think it's just the talking head thing that kind of throws people off. Even though I'm looking into your office, it's a little bit, after a while, people talking, it just gets kind of boring. I don't care what you're selling. And so, something that's engaging and impactful, has some sort of movement. I think whoever the instructor is, being a little bit more interesting, sharing screens and having visuals that help kind of the process, and all of those things would help as well. We are coming to a close. I just want to make sure that I answer. Thank you for your emails, everybody. If you don't want to sign up on the site, you can leave me your emails here on the chat, and I will make sure. We have somebody on the line that has a production company that offers online streaming services. I think that's going to be huge. I think that's another reason why we need to connect, because all of us have different services that we can offer. And so if we have access to people and we've met them and we've seen people's face and we want to connect, we have options. So thank you, everybody on the line. I think I answered everybody's question. I also want to hear back from you if you think this is impactful. If you want to have more conversations in the space, I'd like to have additional guests with different products or services that, thank you everybody for doing that. Oh, okay, August. So that we can share. We need to stay in contact with one another. We're all in this together. I know that's a cliche statement that people say now, but it's real in a segment that is impactful to you. So as an event industry professional, we're here to help. I know Ngia, Brandy, Kelly, myself, we are here to answer whatever questions or concerns. And if you have ideas that you want to share of the things that we talked about or things we didn't talk about, we want to hear from you. So please send your information, and I'll be sure to send that out to everybody. Just really quick last words. We're about 30 seconds over. Brandy, any one statement encouragement word that you want to say to anybody here on the line?
Network. Find a group of people. Network is important. There's other people going through what you're going through, and no one else understands this industry like we do. So find your network, and that's your biggest support group right now. Go online. I'm going to make this quick. Go online. If you're new, even if you're new to the industry, if you've been in the industry for a while, go online, go to these groups like we're doing, find other people that's doing what we're doing, and get there's a lot of resources out there that weren't out there when we started. Take advantage of those resources.
Ngia, I'm sorry, Kelly?
I'll piggyback off of that and say, network in the sense of reaching out to all of your connections and just offering support, whatever that looks like. If it's just saying, hey, I'm here and I'm thinking of you and I want to help out. Maybe there's a creative opportunity, business opportunity that can come from that you never would have thought of before because you had never made that initiation.
I love that. Ngia, last words?
Yeah, I just figure I'm gonna have to bring that film directing degree back into the fore, because it looks like there will be a lot of online video style, that type of direction. So you guys have given me a clue. But also I would want to say that be open to innovation. Yes. Be open to new techniques. I'm considered an OG in a lot of things, and yet I'm gonna bring my old school foundation into this current time and do what's necessary to not only keep myself, my company, the folks who work with me going, but also to make sure that we're still putting into this community excellent events that have a positive, beneficial impact on the folks that we live with. So definitely stay positive. I just will tell you too that 4 years ago, for 2 years, I was going to funerals every other week, literally, not an exaggeration. And sometimes there were more, I couldn't make them all. And it was just because I know so many people and I work with so many people and I honor those relationships. I had to stop myself and say, look, Ngia, you believe in the everlastingness of the spirit that is housed in our bodies. And so hold on to that. Stay positive that it is an everlasting ongoingness. Celebrate the lives and the memories, but don't get yourself wallowed in the sadness because it's hard to pull out of that. Yeah. It's better to really focus on the love that's shared and let those wonderful memories carry you forward.
Thank you, thank you. And just for me, my tips are to trust yourself. You know more than you think you do. You've gotten this far, and you can endure. You can endure this. Use your talents and your skills. If you're planning events, you have a plethora of skill sets, from organizing, from project management to community development, business development. There are multiple things that you can do. And so I think, if you're struggling in a space to find income at this time, if it's really difficult, if the loans and grant systems aren't working for you and you need to get out and get a part-time job, do that. Whatever it is that's going to make you feel good about the situation. It's okay. It's okay. And I think we have to tell ourselves, it's okay. Trust your intuition, that thing inside of you that's telling you what to do. Be confident in that and move forward. I like when Gia said, if you rest in the emotion too long, it's easy for us to get into a downward spiral. And that if we're watching social media too much, it's easy for us to get into a downward spiral. It's impactful. So I would say to, get up each morning, like Ngia mentioned, do your ritual, make your bed, put on some clothes, even put on a couple of, makeup if that's the person that you do. Make yourself feel good, you know what I mean? And try to stay positive in all of it. And I know it's not easy, but, you can do it. So thank you, ladies, for being a part of this conversation. I really appreciate it. Real quick, I know we're way over and I apologize. If you have to drop out, please go ahead and do so. I want everybody to give their social media so people can follow you, website, how they can contact you real quick. Kelly?
Sure. My company is Rebel Marketing and I am all over all the socials at Go Rebel.
Go Rebel.
Go Rebel.
Ready?
And yep.
Oh, is that it? I'm
Nope,
sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Will You Party Event Planning. So WILL, the letter U, Party Event Planning. So it's Will You Party everywhere on social media. My website is willyouparty.com, willyouparty@gmail. So it's my mother and father name combined, so nobody else has it. So Will You Party Event Planning.
Awesome. And Gia?
Cool. So I'm totally behind. I have hired a web designer, so we'll catch up. But I'm currently on Facebook at Ngia Kai, and that's NJIAKAI. And hit me up there. I'm open to support you and always love to work. What we do is teamwork. So I'm always open and looking for resources often. So let's stay in touch.
Absolutely. And I'll make sure that everyone's contact information is online as well in the email that I sent out to everyone. So thank you again. August says she can't find your Go Rebel on IG, Kelly. Is it Go Rebel on Instagram?
She's like, it Go is Rebel Co. Go Rebel Co.
Go Rebel, GOREEL.
Co. Try it with a co. My web address is gorebel.co, not com.
Oh, try it with a co. Okay. Again, I don't want to take advantage of people's time. Thank you again for everybody. And we will be in touch very soon. Stay in touch with us if you have any questions or ideas about moving forward in this event space. You guys have a wonderful day.
Peace.
Thank you, Nina.
Bye-bye. Nobody wants to leave?